This question is from Mike Cavallaro over on YouTube. He posted this in the comments. I wonder if Ron will ever ask the question, hey, why didn't Bernie try to make a fight for the super delegates? Well, I'm asking the question right now, Mike. That's today's question. Why didn't Bernie make a try for the super delegates? This is Mike's question. So let's try to answer it. Why didn't Bernie make an attempt for the super delegates? Here's my answer to that question. I think because their mind was already made up. I don't think there's anything Bernie could have done to win over the super delegates. They were planning for a Hillary nomination in 2015, and nothing was standing in their way. Forever Voting Third Party says their minds were made up and paid for, which is true. They were paid for. The Clinton campaign was funding the DNC. Pat Hacker says Bernie wants to be an establishment Democrat. The DNC would punish him, and he wants their approval. How is that related to trying to get the superdelegates to go for him? The S4P subreddit was shut down because supporters were talking about going after the superdelegates. Deplorable corporate Kamala, she's with Wall Street. All right. So that's your guys' answers. Pat, your answer is because Bernie wants to be an establishment Democrat, so he wanted to lose to Hillary on purpose. And that's kind of why. I mean, I'm not, I disagree with you. I don't think that's true, but you're saying he didn't go after the superdelegates because he wants to be an established. The question, according to Mike, was why didn't Bernie go after the superdelegates? I'm assuming he means why did he not try to get their votes? Why didn't he want to get the superdelegates to come over to his side? My answer is because the superdelegates, their mind was made up. They weren't going to go for him no matter what. So he went after the people. Pat, your guess is so Pat thinks that he just lost on purpose. That's what Pat thinks. And Pat, you're allowed to think that. I don't think that's true, but that's what you think. And I'm sure some folks agree with you. Some people don't. You have every right to think that. So that's one explanation. We have Pat's explanation. Bernie really wants to be an establishment Democrat. That's why. And man, he really, I gotta tell you, Pat, he really went the long way for going about that. He's been an independent for how many years? 30 plus years. And it was all part of his big plan to be an establishment Democrat. He bucked up against them for years and years. Also, he could join them towards the end of his career. That's an interesting theory, Pat. Especially since being an establishment Democrat, once you're in politics, isn't that hard. You know how you be an establishment Democrat? You shut up, you don't ask questions, you take the donor money. That's how you do it. You don't think for yourself. It's not that hard. But hey, Pat, maybe good theory, Pat. Hey, and you might be right. I don't know, but that's one hell of a plan. That's one hell of a plan. A 40-year plan. So that's Pat's theory. Bernie didn't go after the superdelegates because he had this 40-year plan to become an establishment Democrat. Who knows? Who knows? Frederick, pre-2016 Bernie and 2018 Bernie are two different animals. Maybe, but that's not the question. Do you have an answer for the question? I think he was doing what he had to do to keep political leverage. That's what James says. Zero Divisor says, look how edgy you are. Is that directed at me or is that who's that directed at? Burns still believes he can change what can't be. So I think Forever Voting Party is pointing out Bernie's still trying to work within the establishment, and that seems to be a lost cause. So I still haven't had an answer to this question. Some of you guys don't like Pat's answer. You know, honestly, Pat, I don't think it's a very good answer either. But at least Pat has an answer. My answer is because the superdelegates weren't going to change their minds, and he knew that. Like he knew they weren't going to go for him, no matter what was going to happen. They were gonna. Their mind was made up. I mean it's kind of like, you know, the door was padlocked and bolted and locked, and there was somebody at the top of the hill pouring molten lava, and Bernie thought, well, I got to win everywhere else. Bernie knew he was up, you know, he was playing the long game big time. What's up, Terrence? So what do you guys think? Are there any other, do we have any answers? Ron, I think you're right, and I think Bernie also didn't want Trump. I think Bernie was definitely very afraid of a Trump presidency. I think that's why, part of the reason why he compromised the way he did. 2020, Ron Paul. I don't think so. I think Ron Paul, and there's some things Ron Paul says that I like. There's a lot of things he says that I don't like, but I think that Ron Paul has had that beaten out of him in the metaphorical sense. He already took a lot of flack. They kicked those anti-war candidates out as soon as they could in 2008, and Ron Paul knows that the same thing would happen again. That's what I think as far as Ron Paul goes. Ron Paul, I think, really learned that that you really got to think outside the box to try to change. Joe says, I think Ron's answer is basically my answer to that question. I mean, yeah, I mean, what else can you say to that? I mean, the cards were stacked against him, and he knew it. Placone for Prez 2020, you don't want me to run. You don't want me to run. Rand Paul would be a good GOP primary challenger, which is why the GOP would keep backing Trump. That would be interesting, actually. That's an interesting point. I would, and I'm not a huge Rand Paul fan. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes he does do some things that I like, and you know, compared to most of the Republicans, he's among the more reasonable, which is kind of crazy to think about. But he would shake stuff up in a primary, and then he would really twist the establishment's arm, because they would be like, well, we don't like Trump. We never liked Trump. But, man, Rand Paul, ooh, that would really shake stuff up too much. We can't do that either. So I'm with you. So we'll see what Rand Paul does. Let's see. Burns hopes superdelegates would follow the voters. Isn't he already a professional primary challenger? We'll see. We'll see what he does. So you got to keep your sense of humor. The world today is bizarre. It's the only way to keep your sanity. I agree. And I'm glad you point that out, Pat, because on this show, we have no sacred cows. That's one thing. Some of you guys got mad at me because I poked fun at Ralph Nader. Some of you guys have gotten fun at me for poking fun at other people. Look, on this show, I have no sacred cows. I'm a comedian, not a cheerleader. I'll poke fun at whatever. I'll still answer a question. I'll answer a question constructively. I'll say, yeah, I don't think the superdelegates were stacked against Bernie. He knew that. I'll say that. But I have no sacred cows. Ron, what do you think of Dennis Kucinich? I like him. Dennis Kucinich, you know, and I got to admit I'm a little partial, because Dennis Kucinich was the first politician in my lifetime I ever got excited about. I never knew what it was like to really be for a politician until Dennis Kucinich in 2008. I was a big Dennis Kucinich fan, and it just sort of blew my mind. You know, I was younger, and you know, I was really all about Kerry, but I wasn't all about John Kerry because I thought he was great. I was all about John Kerry because George Bush was terrible. You know, I didn't know what it was like to really, wow, this person speaks to me. I don't know what that's like until Dennis Kucinich came along. So I'll always kind of have a soft spot for Dennis Kucinich, I think, because of that. Also, he left a voicemail on my answering machine once. So, you know. Hey guys, thanks for watching. That was a clip from Get Your News On with Ron, the world's first viewer-curated streaming news show. What does that mean? That means I log on to a stream and people tweet me articles over on Twitter at Ron Placone, or they use our Reddit subsection, which is just Get Your News On with Ron over on Reddit. And that's how we build the show. I'm seeing all these articles for the first time. We are literally getting our news on together. Follow me on Twitter at Ron Placone so you can participate. And this show streams live every Tuesday through Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So please do tune in. If you want to support this show, you can do so over on patreon.com/Ron Placone, where for as low as $1 a month, you get access to exclusive podcasts every week, exclusive videos, free tickets to shows when I'm performing in your town, and more for as low as $1 a month. Please do consider it. Thank you so much for your support. This has been Get Your News On with Ron.